The You're Gonna Love This or Not podcast contains harsh language and may not be suitable for younger listeners.
Why would you answer this call? Why would you answer this call? Why?
Hello?
Hey, did you get a new phone?
No? Same phone.
That's weird, your number keeps changing. Anyhow, you coming over for movie night this week?
Oh, is that this week?
Yeah, it's this week.
We just did one last week.
You mean last month?
Oh, it feels like the torment from that last movie is still carrying over. What are we gonna watch?
Oh, dude, seriously, you're really gonna love this movie, and you've got to know it.
I doubt it.
Come on, it's a military robot who's realized that peace is a better way.
That sounds terrible.
No, it's great. It's great. It's got an Oscar winner, Grammy winner, Tony winner.
You keep saying these words. They mean what you think they mean.
Oh, it's super awesome. It has the most immersive performance you've ever seen from an actor.
I'm not sure I'm on board with this one.
Oh, well, come on over. Everybody's waiting.
Who's everybody?
Well, there's Tony, and there's Mike, and this week, Matt Hertz from Obsessive Viewers come over.
Who?
Matt Hurt from Obsessive Viewer. Look.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Hey, he's really awesome. I guess since you've invited a special guest, I'll come over.
All right, well, come on over. You're really going to love this movie.
Oh, I doubt it.
In this month's episode of You're Gonna Love This or Not, Matt suckers both Josh and Matt Hurt from the Obsessive Viewer Podcast down into the SFP to watch the 1988 film Short Circuit 2. In this movie, robot Johnny 5 comes to the city and gets manipulated by criminals who want him for their own purposes. Will Matt and Josh like this, or will they go Los Locos on our intrepid host's junk? Let's find out.
Some say he's nuts.
To the moon, Alice!
Some say he's both.
Muchas gracias.
But everyone agrees he's America's most electric leading man.
Percy and Holmes!
He's
The all-new Johnny 5. Just look at these items. Increased memory, 500 megabytes online. I come with a utility pack. Dozens of gadgets for outdoor living. Lots of Greenpeace stickers and even my own Nike swoosh.
Now he's back and haywired for laughs in his newest motion picture adventure, Short Circuit 2.
Matt, you son of a bitch.
Oh, come on, man. That movie was not near as bad as it could have been. I mean, sure, there's a massive amount of inadvertent racism, but yeah, you know, if you overlook that,
Inadvertent?
it's a fun family movie. It's inadvertent.
He's literally dressed in what would, like, it's not blackface. Would Indian face?
I would call it brown face.
Brown face?
Anyhow, I'll just bring in our guest viewer tonight, Matt Hurt from, is it The Obsessive Viewer or just Obsessive Viewer?
It is whatever you want it to be. It's
Okay.
it's The Obsessive Viewer or just obsessiveviewer.com.
So you're saying you'll be whatever I want you to be?
Well, get more margaritas in
This
me
got
and
more
talk.
dark real quick.
All right, so what's your biggest problem outside of brown face with this movie?
That is my biggest problem with this movie.
Okay, if that's your biggest
it's
problem
not.
with this
That's a
movie,
lie.
I was
That's
going
a
to
lie.
say, then this
No.
movie can't be that bad,
No,
right?
there's a lot
It's-
more.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
It's okay. It's a bad movie for sure. Like it is absolutely. It's not a good movie, and I'm not even a fan of the first Short Circuit, so I don't know how this ranks against the first one for me. But it's not that great. But yeah, I didn't like the first Short Circuit, and this did not do that one any favors. It wasn't good, but it's not. It wasn't as terrible as I expected it to be.
No, it's not. But the thing is, it's like they took the winning formula of the first Short Circuit movie, which was a huge hit when I was a kid. Like a huge hit. I remember people being lined up around the block to watch this thing.
Wow.
And they were like, what's the most offensive thing in this movie? And let's double or triple down on it for the sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the problem with the original Short Circuit is you didn't see that until later in your life, right?
Right. I just saw it like a month or so ago.
Yeah. So it's like one of those movies. Like it's like a Goonies. Like I didn't watch Goonies until I was 33 years old.
Yeah.
And like you shouldn't watch Goonies for the first time at 33.
I didn't watch Goonies until I was like 16, and I didn't connect
No,
with it.
I mean it's one of those things that like as a child when you watch these movies they're different because you have lower sense of what's good.
You
But
kids keep breaking my heart.
Well, the thing with the first Short Circuit that I just couldn't reconcile when watching it is that it felt like it was a response, or I wouldn't go so far as to say ripoff, but just a response to E.T. Like, it's just like, oh,
Absolutely.
E.T. was a hit, so let's make E.T. with a robot. And,
No, I totally agree with that.
And then it just felt a little too derivative. That's why I didn't really like it that much.
But as a kid, that's something you're going to love because you loved E.T. as a
yeah.
kid, and so now they give you this robot, which back in the 80s, robots were like a huge thing. Like,
Right.
they were just starting to come to forefront. It's not like today where we have lots of droids that run around. They're a lot more
Right.
advanced, and so as a child, like this type of robot was so advanced for the time being that it was like, this is really super cool. Like, it's a self-autonomous robot. The only really I had before that was War Games. Mm-hmm. I mean, and that was,
But the
an
original
evil
Short
robot.
Circuit, for a kid that was basically my age, I mean, it was aimed at it.
Yeah.
The original Short Circuit was a catchphrase factory.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there was all kinds of like weird impressions. It was like Aladdin for people a few years
definitely.
earlier.
Yeah, no disassemble, Johnny Five's alive.
Yeah. There was a
Yeah.
super huge hit song by El DeBarge.
Yeah, I mean, he quotes so many like famous actors that we would, our dads would have been into, and so like they were like iconic back then. Clint Eastwood and
But I kind of get what you're saying. It's like if they remade E.T., or they had a sequel to E.T., and then put Elliot in brownface.
yeah, I mean, if the first time you ever watched E.T. was in your 40s, like E.T. wouldn't be that great because first off, you'd be in your 40s and watching a movie that was 40 years old, and I mean, it just wouldn't be that great.
I'll give you friction on that because I think E.T. is just a classic. Like it is. It's a type of movie that, like, if you watch it when you're older, like for me, in my experience, like it makes you nostalgic for childhood. Whereas like something like Short Circuit or like kind of lower grade family kid movies from the 80s are just like cashing in on what's popular, as opposed to making like a movie that is geared toward kids and telling a story that's authentic, like authentic to the kid experience, like E.T. was.
Yeah, well, I mean, as you get older, E.T. means different things too. Because now that I'm a whole lot older and I have a child, and I watch E.T. again, and I'm like, this is a movie about a kid with no father.
Yeah,
like his father's away in Mexico with somebody. Never caught any of that when I was a kid. It was just cool alien stuff, glowing finger and all that stuff. Now I'm like, this is real, real shit that I can't deal with right now.
Yeah, so I think my biggest problem with Short Circuit 2 is that I just, it's my first time viewing this movie, and the only reference to this series that I have is the original Short Circuit, which as a child, I loved that movie, and it was a lot of fun to watch, and Johnny Five was like an icon back then, and I didn't really notice all the rampant racism throughout the movie. And now that I'm a lot older and I realize that the 80s was a very racist time and sexist time at that. I mean, the female assistant buyer gets just basically told by her boss that she's an idiot, needs to figure something out because she's a woman. I mean, just
well, yeah, but next thing you know, they're going to stand up for equal rights.
Yeah, and then a woman is like, oh, great, we have a robot that wants equal rights. And I'm like, really? Like, so you as a woman are trying to deny equal rights in the 80s, which was kind of a huge thing.
Sexism is over today.
Right.
Yeah, I mean...
And, the most persecuted people on the planet are white males right now. I don't know if you know that.
What?
We still haven't ratified the ERA, and it's been like 40 years.
Come on, God.
People. Yeah,
oh my
I know. And that's the end of Matt Talks Politics before he gets really angry because there are 4 drinks in him at this point.
I literally don't even know what he's talking about at this point. So
do you think that this movie was prescient of the Trump administration?
Oh, stop it!
No. Hey, I was not the first person to bring up Trump this time.
Also,
our guest is no, absolutely not. Negative ghostwriter.
So I'm gonna say
nope.
I saw this movie a ton. No, I'm not talking about that. I saw this movie a ton of times when I was a kid. When it would come on, USA or whatever, and replay over and over.
Well, look at the rich kid who had cable.
Back when you would watch them on TV, which you don't do anymore, apparently.
You had a TV?
But, yeah, I watched this over and over. Seeing this again 30 years later, I had completely forgotten this was about a jewel heist.
Right?
Yeah.
All I remember was the fact that Benjamin was the lead character, and that he was an Indian guy. And
really
then Johnny Five came back, and he did a Tarzan yell. And the most memorable thing about this movie, which I'm so happy that other people remember, was the Los Locos gang.
Stop it.
The Los
We're
Locos
not doing
gang
this again.
that may have been more of a racist stereotype than the brown face of.
I have literally heard the Los Locos chant 27 fucking times since they've said it. And that was less than an hour ago. I have heard this chant 27 fucking times in an hour. It's bad. It's terrible. We're not going to talk about it.
The best part is it wasn't just me. I left the room.
It's terrible.
I was upstairs taking a pee and I heard it.
Yeah, that was great. I would love that. It was my favorite part of the whole night. We should do that. No.
I'm hoping Tony edits it in right here.
No.
Yep.
No.
Right now. Right now, Tony.
No.
Edit it in right now in 3, 2, 1.
Los locos kick your ass! Los locos kick your face! Los locos kick your balls into outer space!
And we're back.
And we're back. And we're back. After this stupid chant comes through about in space and shit.
Oh, that was
so bad.
the hit when I was like,
I don't remember that at all. Like, and I'm old enough because this came out, 89?
89, yeah.
So I'd have been 7.
Oh, it was 89. Interesting.
So I mean, it would have been.
Actually, no, it was 88. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Either way, I'd been 6 or 7 years old, so it would have been in the time zone or the time area of where like people my age would have been watching this movie, and I don't remember this chant at all. Like I don't remember this movie at all. I didn't realize they'd make a Short Circuit 2 until you guys put it on. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, I thought maybe I'd seen it before, but I don't remember at all seeing this.
I'm disappointed that the gang doesn't come back. It's a one and done thing. It's not paid off at all.
Yeah.
No.
It's I
like
was
he
really
does all this stuff to help the
disappointed.
gang out.
Yeah.
He steals all his radios and commits multiple felonies. Mm-hmm. And then like when he's in trouble, the gang's like, nah, fuck you. We're not going to help you out.
I
because
don't think
that's
the
how
gang
gangs work.
Yeah.
was meant to be as popular as they were amongst 12-year-olds. I mean, they were that. I just remember being on the playground. You would hear that every day.
Well, you mentioned
for like
balls
a
into outer
year.
space. 12-year-olds are going to
exactly.
love that.
For 12-year-olds talking about kicking balls into outer space, the funniest thing in history.
It's relatable.
It possibly. I mean, it's when I was 12 years old, I would have found that hilarious.
Yeah.
And I was 12
And
years
I
old like
probably
6
would
years
have
ago.
chanted it. Yeah, you were 12 years old 70 years ago.
Something else in this movie is Michael McKean. Michael
Yeah.
McKean is awesome in this movie, I think, anyway. As he is
He's
in
so
every
cheesy.
movie. He's so cheesy.
He's like a cheap man's Don Johnson.
He's cheesy and sleazy, but he's
he's
dug him.
playing a stereotypical New York
Yeah,
City
he's a poor man's Don
grifter.
Johnson.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he is. I mean, he's, yeah. It's like Miami Vice as a criminal. It was bad. He literally wears the same exact shirt the entire movie, and the entire movie spans over several weeks.
It's explained early on in the movie. It's a
$200 shirt. About $45 back in the truck. First off,
you guys-
he's like a grifter who doesn't really make that much
we're
money.
gonna come to blows
but
over
yet
the shirt.
No.
owned a
Before you guys get
$45
emails,
shirt.
it's like $193 shirt.
Oh.
Let's be
Oh my
let's
God.
be absolutely clear on that.
Yeah, people are going to emails about that.
But he still got it for $45 off the back of a truck.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, how do the shirts...
Much like I
it's-
obtained my copy of Short Circuit 2.
And it's silk, he says at one point. So
it does look like a silk shirt.
No, he says, see how the silk at one point, or the silk. So he's got the silk shirt that he continues to wear throughout the whole movie. He's running, sweat, bunch of stuff. Like, I have worn silk before. It does not hold up that well when you're carrying heavy items that are dirty and sweat. Yet the shirt seems to be clean and not wrinkled the entire time.
He makes Johnny
So-
Five clean it.
Is that-
Did you notice that? Yeah. He bosses Johnny Five around. He's
yeah.
very cruel. Very cruel. Wants more cashews from him.
That's
all
what
sorts of
we're-
stuff. Wants his shirt ironed.
what
Do
we're
you iron
doing.
silk shirts? I don't.
You don't iron
You can tell by my Spaceballs the T-shirt shirt that I'm a fashion icon.
Nice.
So I know nothing about clothing.
Yeah.
Fashion icon. That's your new title.
He also, Michael McKean, he rides Johnny Five like a Segway.
Like a segue.
that is
yeah.
glorious.
So that is one
Which-
part of the movie that was actually pretty cool.
It was, it was
no,
pretty cool. And
I'm
I
not gonna
have
lie.
to wonder if there's someone out there in the world who has a customized Segway that's made to, customized to look like Johnny Five from Short Circuit 2.
Lottery goals.
That'd be
Like,
great,
that
yeah.
would be amazing.
Lottery goals. That's telling you right now. Hit the lottery. Johnny Five
Recently,
segue.
and I can't speak as an authority on this. They discovered one of the screen used Johnny Fives and restored it, but I can't remember who did it or for what they did it for. But it was in pretty rough shape apparently when they found it.
Well, if Michael Jackson
probably-
is still alive, I'd say he did it.
Probably as bad as Johnny Five got it in this movie. In the scene where they try to make you cry.
That
Yeah.
was like a super violent kind of scene for
Yeah, and,
the movie.
and that's the scene where they drop the S bomb. Yeah, there's no F-bomb in this movie,
Short
so it's not
Circuit?
PG-13, but they drop an S-bomb. They get their 1 for a PG.
Yep.
Yeah.
Back in 88.
Well, the blood splatter was my favorite part. Or what was it? Battery
it's
fluid?
Battery fluid.
Not
Not acid.
Battery fluid.
And also, somehow battery fluid gets on this guy's shirt and doesn't burn through it?
It splatters like in American Psycho. Like,
Yeah, it's pretty intense. Like, it's a pretty good splatter of blood. Like, it's like an episode of Dexter.
All right,
And yes, we mentioned all these random things so that our editor has more affiliate links to post.
well, I guess we probably ought to talk about Fisher Stevens in this movie.
Yes.
Oh, Fisher Stevens, the quintessential white guy who plays an Indian guy with a really
A
terrible
white guy
accent.
playing an Indian guy. They wouldn't do this now. They couldn't do this now.
No, and some heavy makmakeup. I mean, some heavy
yeah.
makeup. And I mean, they made him look as Indian as possible, but I just couldn't buy it. Like it was worse than the Simpsons Indian accent, which is saying something.
Yeah. Well, when I was researching this movie, because God forbid I should research Short Circuit too. Jeez.
Well, you didn't research another movie, so
I don't want to excuse the brown face.
Oh,
it's a horrible thing. It took a job away from somebody else who probably could have played the part a little more capably. But Fisher Stevens was 25 when he made the first Short Circuit. Wow. Like, you can't refuse being in a movie and all that sort of stuff. And the character originally wasn't intended to be Indian.
So why did they make it Indian?
For whatever reason, they fired Fisher Stevens in the first movie. Because they wanted to change the character to Indian. So, of course, the next thing they did was hire Bronson Pinchot from Perfect Strangers and make him Indian. And when they didn't like that, they asked Fisher Stevens to come back if he could play Indian. So Fisher Stevens went and lived in India for a while and tried to immerse himself in this.
God.
I don't want to say he does a super job because it's it's a very stereotypical caricature.
It's pretty bad.
But I think he did as probably good as you could for this.
And you have to look at time period. I mean, it was the late 80s, so like racial sensitivity is not what it is
There
today.
were not
we
a
don't
lot of-
understand, but which does not at all in any way, shape, or form
Yeah, I'm not going to
condone excuses.
But I'm going to say if I had been Fisher Stevens in 1985 when they started Short Circuit,
well, you'd have been about the right
if
age,
I could have turned
25.
this down. I mean, he really hadn't been in much before.
Right.
I should also say the Oscar-winning Fisher Stevens.
Right.
Yeah, he produced a documentary called The Cove, which you should watch if you hate yourself.
Yep.
The Cove's one about the dolphins that rape people, right?
And no, it's about the dolphins that get hacked to pieces.
Oh, yeah, that one.
It's really hard to watch.
Yeah, I've heard about it. I just haven't seen it.
What I'll say about the brown face between Short Circuit and Short Circuit 2, in the first one, like again, it's inexcusable. Like I'm not making excuses for it or defending it or anything, but I find it interesting that in the first one they have that one line where they're like, "Oh, where are you from?" and he says in his Indian accent something like Sacramento, and like it's like this throwaway line that's like kind of poking fun at the fact that they're doing this like offensive brown face kind of thing, and like that gets like half of a pass from me for the first movie because it's like, okay, they're calling attention to it, they're being meta. But like in Short Circuit 2, they double down on the brown face
went
and like
all in.
They went all in. There's nothing like cheeky about it. It's like, okay, he's committing to this, and it's like, okay, this is problematic at this point.
To the point where he overemphasizes things that he says. Like he calls him Number Johnny 5.
Yeah,
and like he does like all the stereotypical things you would think that Indian people would do, and it's absolutely hideous. Like the whole entire time I'm watching this movie, and I'm just like. And I wonder how this get made. Then I remembered, it was the 80s. And, well, the 80s were a shit time for
Short Circuit was such I think, a surprise hit. I mean, it was made to be just a regular family movie, and it was a giant hit in '86. And they intended for Steve Guttenberg to make a sequel.
This movie keeps changing when it came out because it was '89.
No, the original Short Circuit came out in '86.
Oh, you said
and this movie came out in '88. But like they wanted Steve Guttenberg back, and he wouldn't come without a script, which they hadn't written yet because, well, they did things a lot faster back then when there was a big cash in. I'm not going to mention any movies we've previously covered that were made in a really short amount of time.
Jaws the Revenge.
Yeah, and I mean he wouldn't come back. Ali Sheedy makes a 15-second voice cameo in this movie.
Oh yeah.
They thought they couldn't afford her.
I didn't even realize she made a cameo in this movie.
Yeah, it was her voice.
Was it confirmed that was her voice, or was it like a?
Oh yeah,
when
he reads the letter. So he has a voice recorder, and yet they read a letter.
Is he programmed to use her voice, and is reading the letter, or is it just a recording of her reading the letter? In which case, why did they bother with the paper letter?
I think he's programmed that he may be programmed to use her voice because he does mimic several different voices throughout the movie. So he does have the ability to.
Yeah, he does John Wayne.
Yeah, I mean, impersonations is his thing. So maybe
Tarzan yell. Yeah,
he should have done the Indian voice. Would have been more
Can you put a robot in? They put him in Latino graffiti.
Yeah, they did put him in rainbow face
after he joined the Los Locos gang.
Yeah, the Los Locos gang also has some of the least toughest colors.
Yeah, he looks like a wall.
I mean, he looks like a tie-dye shirt. Like it's like a group of hippie Hispanics that aren't really Hispanic.
It looked like tie-dye or something.
Yeah.
Or like
it was that was pretty bad too. Like and how they convinced him they were really helping people by cleaning and polishing their
which he's supposed to be this, Five is a child. He doesn't understand.
But he's supposed to be
nature.
this like super intelligent robot that can learn and do everything by himself. Yet he constantly gets tricked to help people do things that are illegal.
Well,
when he knows that things are illegal, because he defines stealing later on, and so he understands what's right and wrong.
You would think he would have the input for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, he has 4 megs of RAM. So
I believe it's 10.
I'm sorry,
10 megs of RAM.
Is it 10 megs of RAM?
Yes, the phone that I have my movie notes on is literally like 1,000 times more powerful than Johnny 5.
Was it 4 gigs of?
I'm not about to do that math. I've been drinking.
I think it was 4 gigs of storage space he had.
I think so, something like that.
10 megs of RAM, something like that. Yeah, and the fact that he could read an entire bookstore in 35 minutes, and not a small bookstore.
Also, that leads to
But
another
the world's biggest bookstore.
Yeah, the world's biggest bookstore. He walks in and reads all the books and dumps them on the floor.
Yeah,
and I have some real ethical issues.
Yeah,
with
he's
that.
the worst retail customer of all time.
Yeah,
he's stealing
and I used to work
people's
in a shoe
intellectual
store.
property.
But is he stealing if it's
and he makes a horrible mess?
Question: is he stealing it if it's offered for free at a library?
No, but that's not a library.
But
that's
if those books are also offered for free at the library, and he doesn't actually take the book out of,
then Johnny 5 needs a library card.
I will defend his actions in the bookstore, except for the destruction of like the displays.
Throwing books everywhere, terrible.
Perusing the selection, like even though he can speed read and he intakes all of the input and everything. Which, first of all, just minor nitpick. It bugged me that like he's flipping through the pages and it's like, okay, he can read the pages and process it quickly, but he's not reading every single page.
No.
Like he's just flipping through and like that. I was like, okay, just maybe read each page individually fast. But anyway,
it's killing me that this is what's hanging us up.
Yeah. But I don't think there's anything wrong with being in a bookstore and perusing the selection and everything. And he does make a purchase of the 2 books that he reads when he gets locked up.
I have gone to a bookstore. I've read entire books.
Does he steal them?
Hundreds of books.
Does he steal them?
I don't know if he well, I didn't
Our
know if Michael
producer is
McKean.
nodding yes, he steals them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he steals them because Michael.
And I
McKean's
like that the
character comes in and tells
the
him
2 books that
they're
he
trying to
steals are Frankenstein and Pinocchio.
I thought that was
so
sweet.
Frankenstein's monster, which is also kind of
what could they possibly be referencing?
And then Pinocchio, where he wants to become a real boy, which we find out later. Spoiler alert: he becomes an American citizen with all the rights associated. But he's doing a C-3PO cosplay, so I mean, does that mean C-3PO can also become a citizen of the United States? I don't know.
Apparently so, according to that judge.
Yeah. So
with
robots.
With all of one TV crew at the citizenship ceremony.
I mean, I'm autistic, and I'm allowed to be
in the history of
a citizen,
media.
and I'm kind of like a robot. So I mean, I guess that kind of works.
Regarding the, I just had a thought. Oh man, I almost lost it. Hang on one second. Sorry.
Oh, one too many margaritas for Matt.
I know, and I only had like half of a cup.
Matt is not as well equipped to drink as us.
Yeah. Oh man.
Matt number 2.
He doesn't feel the need to numb the pain yet.
No, this is only his first episode.
I know. Crap. What was? It was like it was a point
regarding
that I was
something.
I'm
regarding
so sorry.
the citizenship of the robot or the gold frame or.
No, it was something earlier in the movie. Something about
the cheesy freeze frame.
Oh, where he was on the cover of People magazine and still nobody showed up at the citizenship swearing in.
Hey, there's a movie crew there. Or film crew.
I hope there's a film crew there.
News crew. The 1980s freeze frame with the balloons in the background.
Oh,
yes, best part of the entire movie.
80s freeze frame is
that was
classic.
the best part.
That's right out of like a 1983 TV action.
And then the font for the final credits basically being the same font they use in Full House.
Yeah, it's really
same coloring. I mean, I feel like everywhere we look, that's what we should start hearing right now.
Also, I think it's the first time in both movies that he jumps up. He has some good.
Yeah, he's got ups.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like, okay,
gold robots can't jump.
Oh, can we talk about the action sequence song?
We can talk about whatever you want.
Let's talk about the action sequence song.
Okay.
So the action sequence song is "I Need a Hero."
Yeah, that's right. Right out of Footloose a few years earlier.
They can't really afford very many songs, as you pointed out while watching the movie. They couldn't afford the blockbuster from the first movie.
Which I don't understand. They had a huge song come out of the first movie, and they reference it in the score for this movie, but by the time you start to hum it in your head, they just change to like a completely different theme.
Yeah, and then so we got to hear I Need a Hero. Mm-hmm. We got to hear the tonal form of Help Me Rhonda.
Yeah.
Broadway.
Yep.
Down by the...
Do-Wah Diddy.
Do-Wah Diddy.
Yep.
On the Bay. At the Bay? On the Bay?
There's also a part where he's coming back when he's been graffitied by Los Locos, where La Bamba is playing.
Oh, yeah.
So
which is the perfect
all these
song
other
to play.
songs are like out of other movies from around that time.
Blatant racial overtones here. Let's play La Bamba just to solidify it.
Los Locos kick your ass.
Stop it.
Los Locos kick your face.
Stop it.
Los Locos kick your balls into outer space.
Los Locos kick your ass. Los Locos kick your face. Los Locos kick your balls into outer space.
25.
Uh-oh.
I knew it was going to happen. I tried so hard to keep it from happening.
Okay, I will try to keep it under control, but I can't guarantee it because I'm 4 drinks in.
I will say this: it seemed like this was a quintessential sequel that was intended to capitalize on marketing a little bit.
It's a cash in. I mean, this movie just screams cash in.
In particular, Ben is selling the toys of Johnny Five. I don't know if they merchandising. That's what I was looking for.
Look, if those toys had been real, there would be a dozen of them on that shelf over there.
They would not be 1995.
Those are amazing.
Well, I don't know if they were. If they made.
Yeah.
I don't know if they obviously that type of toy like that with that much autonomy would be ridiculous.
I don't remember
figures,
ever actually seeing those toys, and I
feel like somebody should make that toy now.
Yeah,
again,
it would
this
sell.
movie did not do very well. When it opened on its opening weekend, I think it opened in 7th place. It was a huge bomb compared to
which kind of shocks me for when it came out. I feel like had I watched this movie for the first time when I was 7 or 8 years old, or even later on, I probably would have enjoyed it because it has a lot of the feels of what you would need for a childhood movie. I mean, you've got the action, you get the adventure, you got a robot that saves the day, you've got tunneling, you've got jewel thieves, you've got big city, pretty girl. I mean, there's a lot of things in this movie that would appeal to children. So it kind of shocks me that this movie didn't do so well in the theaters back in the 80s.
Yeah.
I would assume this was the kind of movie that I would think that would do well in the 80s because it's a piece of shit.
All right, well, we'll see. I mean, it kind of has to do with the fact that the 80s were, when it came to movies, there were just powerhouse years. And
oh my goodness gracious. We were just looking that up. The year I was born, 1982, has probably 10 movies that are all-time classics.
Yeah.
That would be rated in the top 100 of all movies of all time. It's...
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize that. And, E.T.'s in 1982, which, by all counts, is a fantastic movie. And... I don't know. It's just Officer and a Gentleman. Just movies that people are critically acclaimed over the years.
Well, I'll tell you what. 1988, I'll read you off the top 10 grossing films of that year. Number 1, we have Rain Man. 2, we have Who Framed Roger Rabbit. 3, Coming to America. 4, Big. 5, Twins. 6, Crocodile Dundee 2. 7, Die Hard. 8, The Naked Gun. 9, Cocktail. 10, Beetlejuice.
You mentioned Twins in this.
Wow.
It's a huge, huge year for movies.
Twins is a movie I wonder how it got made.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised. It was a very unique concept.
No, it was. Looking back now, I don't know how it got made. At the time, of course, it made sense. But looking back now, It's such a ridiculous concept.
Yeah, we don't really get that kind of like high concept, ridiculous
the movies that came
star
out the year are
vehicles.
ridiculous.
Yeah, we're really losing that in the era of sequel
Yeah.
and franchises.
Yeah, like it's being replaced with like. Fast
ever
and Furious
since the
stuff.
best sequel of all time came out, Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls.
Oh God!
Oh my God! Again. Oh,
Mike knew it was coming. Mike's just shaking his head. Like the two Matts are looking at me like, huh? Mike's just shaking his head because like he knows what's coming.
I'm not going to say that it's a bad movie. It's a very enjoyable movie. But when you say that it's better than the original Ace Ventura, like I would watch Short Circuit 14 before I'd watch Ace Ventura 2 again.
Oh God!
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm just going to flat out tell you, Rotten Tomatoes. Anybody got a guess?
38%.
I'm gonna go with
Critic or audience?
20% for critics.
20% for critics, and you say 38% because
I was going audience.
You looked.
No, I actually was just guessing.
All right. Well, Rotten Tomatoes score for critics is 38%.
Wow,
Really?
It's a good guess.
Yeah.
Wow.
For audience, 54%.
I guess 52, 53. Yeah.
And I got to say,
not
Roger
too bad.
Ebert hated the first Short Circuit.
Oh, did he?
Surprise.
Hated it. Short Circuit 2, he and Gene Siskel could not get enough of it. 2 thumbs up.
Really?
Like they let their quotes go on all the posters, everything. Even better than the original is on the poster from the Siskel and Ebert show, which drives me insane because I'm like, that implies that you liked the first one and you really didn't.
Yeah, that's a good
Siskel and
point.
Ebert gave this movie 2 thumbs up. I'm telling you, it's at what time of the year did this come out? I mean, did this come out after Beetlejuice and all those movies came out?
That's
or
a good question. This movie,
because I feel like if you'd seen Beetlejuice this year, and if you had seen Die Hard this year, and if you had seen these other movies that he mentioned that I can't remember all the names to, like Naked Gun and
I have a
Twins
theory that it came out like I'm just to fit my theory. I want to guess that it was like late summer, early fall for the holiday season.
this came out beginning of July 8th.
Oh, okay.
It's a summer blockbuster time.
Okay.
July 4th,
Wow.
the weekend.
Yeah, I was just trying to pad my theory about the merchandising because
again,
because the
they
toys
thought it would be bigger than it really was, and it fizzled.
And then
I guess people were tired of Johnny Five.
Yeah, in the setting, there's a mall like thing. I kind of felt like that was like a, I don't know. Maybe I'm giving too much credit to it, but like, okay, like a subliminal, like, okay, shop, like merchandising, buy stuff.
There's
consumerism
a
for holiday
ton
stuff.
of product placement. In this
Yo,
movie.
Oh yeah, the
Which
Die Hard
for-
battery,
like way more than for most movies of its time.
Polaroid camera,
Polaroid cameras. We got Nike swoosh. Mentions.
Okay,
kinds of
another part of this movie that kind of bothered me when he's falling out of the skyscraper and he engages his hang glider upside down. And yet somehow the hang glider flips him right side up, and he falls for an enormous amount of time.
Yeah,
and I'm
he
not
falls like
saying
he's
that I
falling
have a
from
doctorate
space.
in physics, but I understand basic concepts of falling.
Yeah.
And he would have been falling a lot further. Like this is like a 40,000 story building.
Yeah, and
Because-
it's not in like slow motion or anything.
No,
It's
and
just,
then when he engages the hang glider, he's still really high up. He's above a lot of other really high buildings, and then he just happens to land near a bunch of model airplanes, which, spoiler alert, he uses later to save himself
Of course. All
by
right,
buzzing some guy's butt.
usually we play a bit of higher or lower with the Rotten Tomatoes score, Box Office Mojo grosses, or whatever, Metacritic letterbox scores when somebody cheats and looks up movies in the middle of the movie. But today
You
I feel
guys
like
researched this whole movie before you even get to see it.
I did. He didn't.
no.
Yeah. He no reason to research.
Okay, so
Nobody has
you
any reason to research this movie.
the main person who I usually do this podcast with, I've always researched everything beforehand. So if I do a little research in the middle of the movie, I should not be victimized or
You're not gonna
vilified.
be.
Vilified is the word I'm looking for here.
Yeah,
vilified for that.
Yeah.
We're gonna play a little bit of a game. We'll see if it works or not. But you're not gonna go against me whether I'm saying high or low. You're gonna go competitive against each other.
Okay.
Okay. We should play the game. And what will Josh rate this?
I've got the top 100 movies grossing of 1988 pulled up. Okay? And I'm just going to tell you, this movie came in middle of the pack, number 45. And we're going to go higher or lower. I'm going to give you a movie name, and you say whether you thought it made more money in 1988 than this movie.
Oh, that's fun.
And we'll maybe go 5 times.
Okay.
And see which one of you is smarter.
Can I ask a
Because
quick
one of
question?
you is probably going to be a real dum-dum.
Oh, wait, can I ask a quick question?
Uh-huh.
Is the objective of this particular podcast to outpace any length of any Obsessive Viewer podcast?
Maybe.
That
We
would
ain't
be
got
a
that kind
worthy
of time.
goal.
This movie didn't get over till after 11 o'clock tonight. We're pushing midnight already, so I don't know. If we were here till about 5, we could edit it down to...
Probably. And we have to keep in mind that we all have like these displays on our backs that say how much time we have until we die.
Yeah.
So we need to...
No, it's
we have a countdown.
Total memory failure.
Total memory failure.
That's what it was.
That's right.
Yeah.
When your batteries
And
run out.
yet, so what the best part
I've got
about
like
that is
88
the total
minutes.
memory failure got down to 0. Yeah. Then they used a portable defibrillator, which looked sort of like I don't even know how to explain what it looked like, but they jump-started him with a portable defibrillator, which gave him enough energy to come back alive and be completely fine. Although total memory failure happened, so somehow...
Which, that, like, I don't want to...
Let's say this
Now, didn't that
nitpick
exact
it,
same sort of
but
thing happen at the end of the first one?
I honestly don't remember.
I'm not saying that happened.
I think
but
something
Did
like
you
that.
even really watch it before you put it on Letterboxd?
I wasn't too crazy about it, so and it's been a month. Like it's gone from my memory pretty much.
It hasn't been a month. It's been
God, I wish I had
yesterday,
that ability.
and it's
Oh
June
yes,
now.
Yeah, it's been. There's been a certain. It was winter when I saw it, so it's been a while. But
because we're definitely not recording these beforehand.
Yeah, we're not stockpiling, so we can take a big break. But
No, we would never do that.
the defibrillator paddle thing, like that. Okay, I'm not going to nitpick this or anything, but like the whole
you
idea. Well, I mean, I'm not.
It's
like,
okay.
Like
It's
I'm
a
Of
not.
a leaky battery being jump started and coming back to life.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this is ruinous to the movie for me, but it's like, okay, it's kind of cheap that it's like, okay, you have this narrative device of this countdown to Johnny Five dying, and then you see the countdown go to 0. And so, like, and then suddenly, like, there's this Deus Ex Machina of the paddles that jolt him back to life. It's like, okay, so then what was the point of having the stupid countdown?
And question, how are you jump starting something that has no battery fluid in it?
Yeah.
Because my presumption here is that the reason why the countdown got to 0 is because he ran out of battery fluid and it all leaked out. So
it's
if there's
called
no...
Deus Ex Machina. Ex Machina?
Yeah. Okay, back to the game.
All
So,
right,
yeah.
so here we go. I'm going to pick movies outside of those top 10 because you already know what they are. You
I don't
know they
remember
made
them.
more money than it. But again, 88, kind of a loaded year. Not the biggest year, not like 84 or something, but pretty big movies.
82 was
came out
pretty
the-
big, too.
Movies,
Yeah.
a lot of movies you would have heard of. It
Yeah.
amazes me that like out of the 100 top grossing movies, I've seen probably 90 of them. Like
Wow.
they're popular movies you would have heard of.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, so first movie we will pick. Let's go Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Ooh.
Higher or lower? Well, we'll ask if Short Circuit 2 you think was higher or lower than Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
It's a weird one for me because Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, I believe, became more of a cult classic later on. It probably wasn't that popular when it came out. Man, I don't know. I'm going to say Short Circuit did more.
You think Short Circuit did more than Dirty Rotten Scoundrels?
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
want to say that because it's definitely not a better movie.
I'm gonna say that Short Circuit did a little bit lower than Dirty Rotten Scoundrels because I would assume that word of mouth probably destroyed the second and third weekends of Short Circuit 2.
You know, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels came in at number 25.
Wow.
Number 25. It was not like a big failure. Like it was a pretty good, solid box office movie.
Okay.
You know, it's a lot more popular now because
Yeah.
again, Steve
It's
Martin,
very cultish. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's great. The Oklahoma scene slays me every time.
I've never
Yeah,
seen it.
we should watch the Oklahoma
Oh
scene.
my god!
I know.
Hey,
Holy
we
cow.
should watch the Oklahoma scene of that movie again before we ever watch Cannibal the Musical.
See, what we're gonna do is for the last 3 episodes of this podcast for the year, we're gonna watch Cannibal the Musical every time.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to show up.
We're just gonna analyze it like Star Wars Minute.
No, I will be sick all of those days.
All right. Let's go with Bloodsport. Bloodsport's a pretty popular movie.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, it's kind of another
The
cultish
Frank
classic.
Duck
Yeah.
story.
I'm gonna say Short Circuit 2 was higher than Bloodsport because I feel like Bloodsport's a little bit more niche and wouldn't have the wide appeal of broad audience.
It was the 80s.
That's true. That is
And
true.
they did love blood and violence.
Yeah, so I'm probably gonna eat my words, but
know.
I'll stick with it. That
I'll just
Short
take the other
Circuit
end
did
then. I'll say that Bloodsport did more than Short Circuit. I'm I'm going to be wrong again because I can see the smirk on your face.
Wrong again. Bloodsport came in that year at number 81. It's pretty low.
Yeah. Well, doesn't Matt also have
That's
another
more of a
podcast
cult
that kind of
movie.
does this kind of stuff? So I feel like...
Yeah, but these are movies he really wasn't old enough to see.
No.
And he kind of concentrates on the current stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No. Mr. Current over here.
All right. Let's go with... Ooh, let's find... Oh, there's a good one. Scrooged. The holiday classic.
Oh, man. So it probably came out at Christmas time. So probably a big... I'm going to say Scrooge did more. I'm going to say it was ranked higher.
I'm gonna say that it was lower, specifically because it came out at Christmas time, so it didn't have the legs to like have like a full like run before the end of the year.
So you think Scrooge did worse than Short Circuit 2?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Scrooge comes in at number 13.
Oh, dang.
I won one.
Huh. I watched Scrooged over the winter, and I wasn't too crazy about it, to be honest.
Again, if you'd watched it when it came out.
Right, yeah.
Our producer keeps trying to throw Matt number 2 out.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go for another sort of classic movie, classic comedy, The Great Outdoors.
Oh, man.
Is that John Candy?
Yeah. John Candy, Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, that's
Before Aykroyd got Aykroydian.
I don't even know what that means.
Oh, if you've seen Blues Brothers 2000.
We're not going to talk about that.
I'm going to say Short Circuit 2 was lower than The Great Outdoors because specifically, like, this is just a hopeful guess for me because Great Outdoors is a movie that I watched during my childhood. Like, my family watched it all the time. And I'm really hoping that it was successful. I'm hoping that it was as successful at the box office as it was in my house growing
I'm thinking that Short Circuit 2 was higher.
You think Short Circuit 2 was higher than The Great Outdoors?
I think it did more.
Wrong again, Josh.
Wow.
Really?
Great Outdoors comes in at somewhere in this page. Maybe. Number 25.
Wow.
If only. All right, last one. I've already lost. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you've lost. It's okay. I'd say, you were so young back then, but he's younger than you are.
Anyway, I should probably wrap this up.
All these movies were on at my peak movie time in my life. So my dad was working in the movie theater, and I went to see every one of these.
Nice.
Let's try... Would you prefer a franchise movie or just a zany comedy? Come on, pick a genre.
I think franchise would be fun since Short Circuit 2 is a sequel.
Let's go with Police Academy 5 Assignment Miami Beach.
Oh, God.
Oh, no. Short Circuit had to do better than that. It had to have done better than that. Yeah, I think we're probably going to agree on this one. Because
I think so, too.
Police Academy after number 2 kind of just went,
Yeah. But they did keep making it.
Yeah, came in at number 52. They made, I think, one more Police Academy movie that was in theaters. I think they
came at number
what? Video after that. It came in at number 52.
Where did Short Circuit come in at?
The first Police Academy movie without Steve Guttenberg.
And where did Short Circuit come in at?
Short Circuit came in at 45.
Yeah.
Not that much worse.
Like when you look outside that top 10, I mean, we've got A Fish Called Wanda, Working Girl.
Oh, that's a great movie too.
Willow, Rambo 3, Oliver and Company, Bull Durham, Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Wow.
Young Guns.
Young Guns.
Yeah,
nice.
like
Oliver, another kid movie. I mean, that makes more sense now.
Child's Play debuted that year.
Great children's movie.
Oh, I should have used this one in the game. Ernest Saves Christmas.
Great children's movie. I always like Ernest movies. Anyway, let's probably wrap this up. As far as rating, so I'm gonna give this a solid 2 stars.
2 stars.
2 stars.
Yeah.
Nostalgia's gonna kind of.
This is out of 10.
We're doing this out of 10.
Out of 10.
Go out of
Okay.
10.
So this is 2 out of 10. Merely for the nostalgia factor. Would have been a lot higher had it not been for the racism with brownface. Had they made Fisher Stevens a normal white guy or cast an Indian person as that character, this movie probably would have gotten 6 or 7 stars from me.
Nice. Let's see. Well, on Letterboxd, I rated the first Short Circuit a 1.5 star out of 5. So that's
3 out of 10.
3 out of 10. Thank you. So I think that I would probably rate this 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10.
Yeah, because I liked it a little bit better than the original.
So what you're saying is even better than the original.
Even better than the original.
All right,
2 thumbs up.
All right, well,
What has 2 thumbs and love this movie? Matt.
before we go, we can talk about a few of the other performances.
What are you
in
going to
here.
rate?
They're
You need to rate it.
I would give this movie a solid 5. I'll go right down the middle.
Oh, okay.
It was far more memorable. Well, far better than I would have imagined a movie that I loved when I was 12. Because
Sure.
everybody loves garbage when they're 12 or when they're 42. So, but as Oscar, the main villain, who is a good guy for most of this movie before you realize he's the arch villain genius behind this jewel robbery.
Typical 80s fashion.
I had like an interesting like realization like 3/4 of the way through the movie.
Oh, please be what I was about to say.
Oh,
come on.
I don't know. Because and this is a little self-serving on my part. One of my podcasts is called Anthology.
Weird you should mention that.
I know. It's where I review The Twilight Zone as a first-time viewer, and like about 3/4 of the way through the movie, I hear Oscar speaking, and like he's flustered. I think it's when they're chasing Johnny Five, and like I'm like, I know that voice. Like I know that voice very well.
Yeah.
It's because he played Charlie in the season 1 episode of The Twilight Zone. The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street.
The Monsters Are Due on Maple
Yeah,
Street.
and I think he was in maybe another episode or two.
He was in The Bard.
Oh, okay, see, I haven't seen that one yet.
I don't know that episode. I know the
Okay.
Monsters Are Due
Spoiler
on
alert,
Maple Street.
he's in The Bard.
But The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street is like my favorite of season 1. My favorite episode of
That's
season
one of
1.
the classics.
Incredible.
Like,
Yeah.
He
Admission.
was Golden Globe nominated for Best Actor in a Musical or Comedy in 1976.
The actor's
I'm
name
gonna
is
go ahead
Jack
and fully
Weston,
admit
by
that
the
I've
way.
never seen the Twilight
Jack
Saga.
Weston.
Twilight Zone.
He was Tony nominated for Best Actor in a Play in 1981. And the fact that's interesting to me and probably neither of you, although it may come up later in the podcast.
Is he from New Zealand?
No. He was in the movie
Did he
Rad,
threaten a cop?
the BMX movie from the 80s, which is fucking fantastic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He was in Dirty Dancing. And fun fact, his last 2 movies were Ishtar and Short Circuit 2, which means he ended his career on a real down note.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's depressing.
Yeah. Tim Blaney was the voice of Johnny Five. He is a puppeteer. He works with the Muppets.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was the voice of Frank the Pug in Man in Black.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he's currently the puppeteer for Gypsy on the revival of MST3K.
Oh, okay. I will say that the robotics work or the animatronics or the whatever it was
Is
that they how it did
in this movie.
it's the high point of the movie. Like,
Oh yeah,
it
especially
looks
for being in
amazing.
the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the way the robot in this movie is of quality of
Yeah.
today's age.
I remember it being
Yeah.
terrific in the first movie, but this movie, I
Yeah,
mean, this is like
the
next
thing
level.
the thing about it that makes it so good is that it is so simplistic.
Yeah.
Like it's a basic track system. It's nothing too crazy. It's not
It
like
is.
they're
I'm
trying
sure
to
it's
do.
like 20 guys standing around with hydraulic pumps, like other stuff. That
And the way
Yeah.
that the camera kind of just zooms in on it at different angles and stuff is like an interesting way to just kind of show it having like I feel like it was intended to trick us into thinking it was more versatile and like had more maneuverability than it really did, and like it worked for me. Like it sold
Yeah,
it.
no,
for
I
me.
really liked
it. Was really good.
The robot work. I mean, minus the falling from the skyscraper.
Yeah.
So that's the only
Yeah.
one. But beyond that, I mean,
But I think a lot of it is
the way that
eyes,
they flew the
eyebrows.
model planes. They're really good. I mean, his facial expressions, if I can put it
Yeah.
that way.
He's the only
were
robot
really
I've ever
good.
seen with eyebrows.
Yeah,
they
I mean,
really add a lot to it.
Yeah, and I mean, you can. He seems very real. It's not like Tom Servo or some of the other robots that you see back in that time frame that
Right.
seemed very not so real.
Yeah, yeah. And Cynthia Gibb played Sandy in the movie. She was on 57 episodes of Fame, the TV series, not the movie. She's been in a lot of TV movies, and you may have seen her work recently. Now, I don't want to spoil this, okay? But the last few credits I've seen have been Sharing Christmas, Broadcasting Christmas, Christmas Land, My Dog's Christmas Miracle, A Nanny for Christmas, An Accidental Christmas, Merry Christmas, spelled M-A-R-Y, and Holiday Affair.
Wow.
So she's doing
she
great on
get-
Hallmark,
Yeah.
apparently.
Oh,
Wow.
great. I went a different direction with that.
I mean, good for her for getting work. that's
Yeah.
Whatever.
She found her niche.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's apparently
And
Christmas.
she's really working it.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious as to what a couple of those are about.
Right.
Maybe we should add them to the list.
Accidental Christmas.
I kind of want to see Accidental Christmas. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
Yeah.
so when it comes to cheesy Hallmark movies, I kind of love them because they're so cheesy, and I
Yeah.
expect them to be so bad. Like, that's the thing. Like, with these movies. It's like any rom-com ever. It's like I love rom-coms, even though I know how bad they are.
And as for Johnny Five, well, this is actually his third on-screen appearance. The first one being Short Circuit, third one being Short Circuit 2, because between the two movies, the prop from the first movie was used in a Wes Craven movie called Deadly Friend. I showed a clip of it to these guys earlier. It is, you'll have to see it to believe it, and I had never heard of this movie, and I desperately need to see it now.
Do we need to put it on a list?
Yeah, I think it's list worthy, just based on the 3-minute
and
clip
the fact that neither one of us have
have
seen it will make it better.
Yeah.
Because maybe you won't talk the entire way through it.
Maybe. But some of these movies, you gotta say something.
No, you don't. You can just save it for the podcast. Anyways, we need to wrap this up. I think
No,
your producer is telling us
I gotta
to
tell
wrap this
you,
up.
since this is
he's showing us a plug into the wall.
This is
and,
the third episode of the Short Circuit quadrilogy, because after this he was in something else.
Oh my God! Please.
After this, Johnny Five, even by name, like they credit him as Johnny Five, is in a short film, probably about 25 minutes long, made by the California Attorney General's office, called "Hot Cars, Cold Facts About the Dangers of Auto Theft."
Wow.
I watched it the other day, and it lacks a lot of production value.
No.
But I did learn that it's a real dangerous game, guys.
Is it as good as that
Don't steal
amazing
cars.
cat adoption video that's viral on Facebook? Have you seen this cat adoption
I'm an old
video?
guy and I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I'll have to find it for you guys. It's the best thing ever. We'll have to watch it. It's fantastic.
I will say real quick that there is a cat in this movie, and I appreciated that.
Yeah.
It appeared to be a short-haired tabby, much like my cat, Pizza Roll.
Yeah.
So,
the Cyrano de Bergerac reference in here was pretty good too.
Yeah.
I like that.
Solid.
Yeah.
All right.
Left over on my notes, I just have Manic Mike. Was played by Don Lake, who's in a lot of Christopher Guest movies.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
With Michael McKean. Yeah, you probably didn't recognize him. He had a little more hair and a mustache in this movie.
Crazy Eddie.
There's a priest in this movie, played by Jerry Parks.
Who has Tourette's and Boondock Saints.
He's Doc from Fraggle Rock. And the writers of this movie wrote the original Short Circuit. Went on to write Batteries Inc. Not Included, which is
interesting.
a terrific Spielberg movie.
Yeah, that's...
And then after this, when their career took a turn, went on to write Tremors and all of its sequels and the TV show.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
but that's like the best thing ever to happen, so...
Let's see here. Also, I have, this podcast is brought to you by Casper, the only comfortable mattress with a name reminiscent of a paranormal tale of tragic child mortality. Casper, sleep on it.
Yeah, it's the friendly ghost mattress.
We have no sponsors. We have as many sponsors as we have listeners.
That's awesome.
So we have 22 sponsors?
Oh, and also the last note I have is Ace Ventura 2, Rhino Scene is worse than inadvertent racism.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I could get behind that. Yeah.
We've already had a bit of that.
You know what?
Yeah.
It was a different time.
Johnny, we need to edit Matt number 2 out of this completely.
Come on. It has a cliffhanger reference in it, for God's sake.
Oh, stop it.
Anyhow,
Cliffhanger's amazing.
We'll wrap it up for tonight. We'd like
It's
to
in the bone.
White devil. Anyhow, we'd like to thank Matt Hurt from ObsessiveViewer.com.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad I
Watching
finally
this-
get to meet
this
you.
Pile of trash with us. We really appreciate it and all the support you've given us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll
Thanks
have you
for
back
having me.
again if you will come
Yeah.
into a stranger's basement that he refers to as a subterranean fun pit, which is even more gross sounding.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You picked the right movie, though, because
Yeah.
some of the other movies have been trash.
it's definitely not worse than a lot of the other movies.
Yeah, you should plug your thing. Plug Matt. Matt, what podcast do you do? Podcast.
okay.
He does Obsessive Viewer. He does.
I have 3 podcasts. They're presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. ObsessiveViewer.com is just my website. I have the Obsessive Viewer, which is a movie and TV podcast. We try to go weekly. It's usually a movie or TV review every week. We have kind of a rotating co-host roster that comes in, so that kind of keeps it a little fresh and everything. Usually it's recent releases and everything. We also track our movies watched throughout the year obsessively, no pun intended, and at the end of every year we do like stat compilations and stuff. So it's a lot of fun. I have 2 other spin-off podcasts. There's Anthology, which I mentioned earlier in this episode. It's a Twilight Zone and classic and contemporary sci-fi anthology review podcast. So I'm basically watching the original Twilight Zone for the first time and reviewing it as I go through the series. And I also do bonus reviews of Black Mirror and other contemporary sci-fi anthology shows, including the new Twilight Zone reboot that was on CBS All Access in the spring. By Jordan Peele. So check that out. That is found at anthologypod.com. And then finally, my third podcast is called Tower Junkies, where me and my friend Tiny and some guests talk about everything Stephen King and the Dark Tower book series, which is Stephen King's magnum opus that there's never been a movie about. It is a fun side project podcast where me and Tiny just basically share our love of Stephen King. Stephen King is like our favorite thing and our favorite creative person. So we just basically geek out about Stephen King. That can be found at towerjunkiespod.com. And all my podcasts really can be found at obsessiveviewer.com/podcasts. I'm also on Twitter and Letterboxd and Instagram and all that stuff at Obsessive Viewer. And my other podcasts on Twitter are at OV Anthology Pod and at Tower Junkies Pod. And thank you guys so much for, having me and stuff. This was a blast.
The pleasure is all mine.
Yeah, no, you were way better than the other Matt.
Yeah.
I made you have to talk to you after the show and be like, you want to change up some things?
Well, I appreciate that. But it's been a blast. I'm very...
we loved having you, and this is a suitable movie to watch.
Yeah. No, I mean, you definitely could have chosen a worse movie to guest star on, because we've done some real shit shows.
And I will try my best to pick a worse movie next time.
Also, that new Twilight Zone. Ooh,
oh, I know.
Awesome. Yeah, it's crazy.
Is it really good?
Yeah, it's terrific.
It's incredible. It's
when it came out in March?
April?
Yeah. When it came out in April? I just couldn't stop. Yeah. I had to watch it all. I don't know how you can. It's June, Josh.
Yeah, it's June.
Oh. June? Or this might be May. Depending on whether another episode of ours actually makes it to...
I feel like that episode should make it just because it's so bad.
That episode may end up being bonus content.
We may have to re-record it.
Yeah, which I do not relish having to watch that movie.
Oh, we're not watching the movie again. I remember everything about that movie.
Ooh, that would be great, actually, to do an episode where we just sort of remember a movie.
Oh, God.
In the year I bet it would come off a lot better.
Yeah.
In the year 2000.
All right. Well, we've gone way longer than any other episode because this movie.
It's been 3 people.
I take responsibility for that.
No, it's terrific. It's nice to have somebody here who.
I feel bad for Tony, who has to edit this whole entire thing.
Yeah, no, he'll do a very capable job, I'm sure.
For what we pay him, he should.
Exactly. You get what you pay for, and well, he knows. Anyhow.
Anyways, as always, Matt. You're a son of a bitch.
I love you, Josh.
I love you too.
I love you too, Matt.
Love you guys. Thanks for having me.
Bye, guys.
This episode of You're Gonna Love This or Not was recorded at the SFP Studios, located off of beautiful Eagle Creek Reservoir in Indianapolis, Indiana. It features Matt dragging Josh down into the dark depths of his movie collection and is released monthly on the Teen Geeking family of podcasts. It is produced by Mike Wycliffe, edited by Tony Troxel, and features music by Scott Holmes, who can be found on the Free Music Archive. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or the podcatcher of your choice, and please leave us a rating and review. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.